back to Everything But the Lesson Plan, the podcast where we go beyond the curriculum to explore the forces shaping education and the future of teaching. I am joined today by Ben Tasker, former Associate Dean, educator, and global thought leader on the intersections of artificial intelligence and learning. In this episode, we'll unpack how AI is transforming classrooms, what it means for the global workforce, and the big questions educators should be asking right now. What trends should teachers be preparing for? How will the skills our students need shift in an AI driven world? And what does the future of education really look like when machines and humans learn side by side? Stick with us. This is a conversation that could change how you teach, how you lead, and how you prepare your students for the future. Welcome to the show, Ben. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Francesca. How are you?
Pretty good. Now tell me, where are you? You are in
New Hampshire,
New Hampshire. And what's the weather like up there?
cold.
Yep. Yep. And Georgia's getting a little bit of that as well. So, hey, I love it though. I do love this season.
Yeah, and it's almost the holidays. It's a great time.
Yeah, it is. So I'm glad that you are able to come on and have this conversation with me today. You know, this is a hot topic in education. And so let's see if we can at least answer some questions that would help teachers everywhere. All right. So, what are the most significant skills that are becoming essential in the AI era, workforce, and how should educational curricula adjust to prioritize them?
So AI is changing a lot, not just education.
Yeah.
AI is also changing the workforce, and a job is just a bundle of skills. And skills, the way I like to think about it is when I go to a Michelin star restaurant or any really good restaurant, there's usually a chef there, and that chef's gone through a lot of training. They've put in a lot of time. You're probably not going to get food poisoning when you eat a meal with a really experienced chef, especially a Michelin star chef. So
Yeah.
there's value around those skills, and there's also that credential, the Michelin star credential.
Mm-hmm.
Same things going on with AI and education. We're shifting away from degrees to micro learnings, badges, credentials, maybe short form learnings, whatever the case may be. And with AI, because it's changing and it's so transformational, you have to really be able to keep up with it. So yes, a degree is still important. I still believe in degrees, but
Mm-hmm.
once you're done the 4 year degree, AI is probably going to change at least 32 more times. It changes very rapidly. So what you're learning in a 4 year or 6 year degree might not be as relevant as earning a certification or some of those more short form learnings. So now that we kind of understand what a skill is, there's also a concept called skills taxonomies. There's a million of these out there. So you can use any skill taxonomy that you want. And I'm also talking about this from an organizational level or an individual level. But one that I love is the World Economic Forum's. The World Economic Forum skills taxonomy focuses on what's called AI skills and human skills. What's beautiful is that they call AI skills exactly that. They're skills that are relevant today and they'll pay a premium today. But over time, AI will get really great at those skills.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those skills include prompt engineering, analytical thinking, systems thinking, coding, and then there's human skills. And human skills, even with AI, hopefully humans will still excel in those skills. And that's compassion, empathy, leadership, some elements of project management. These skills, even though there's not as much of a premium in them today, long
Mm-hmm.
term there will be a premium because AI won't be able to replicate them as easily. It might be able to simulate empathy, but really can't have empathy. That's a human trait and a human ability. Uh, so now that these skills are undervalued today, they'll be worth more in the future. So I would recommend focusing on both AI skills and human skills. That way you're balanced. You can transform anywhere. You can go to any organization and be relevant. And you're ready for the future. Once AI continues to take off, you're ready for that future and you also have those human skills to transition with.
So Ben, let me ask you this. You said a lot of key points here, and just to kind of give you, the narrative of what's going on in schools right now. You do have a lot of students who are not choosing to do the 4 year option anymore. They're looking to get into trade schools. They're looking to do 2 year programs or less. They want to get that skill. They want to get that certification. So you're saying that there are quite a few certificates, these badges that students can gain in these, I guess, AI specialty schools, or how does that work? Is it attached to a college, or is it
It
attached to a
can be.
trade school, or they can go online and get some of these certifications?
So the certifications can be offered from an institution, but they can also be offered from an organization. So, for example, Microsoft has AI certifications, Google has AI certifications, IBM has certifications, Amazon has an entire upskilling program. So at the end of it, eventually you might be able to get a job at Amazon.
Okay.
On the education side, they might be able to offer those. Sometimes there's partnerships, but they might have more consolidated courses. So instead of taking a 15-week course in computer science, maybe it's a 6-week boot camp. So you'll still go through the same curriculum. It would be less expensive and you'll go through it more quickly. It's much more hands-on, much more immersive, and at the end of it, you'll earn a badge or a certificate.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. And tell me a little bit more about this World Economic Forum thing that you were mentioning.
Yeah, so the World Economic Forum's thinking about the future of work. It's also thinking about other things around the economy, but I mostly focus on it through the future of work. And it attaches that skills taxonomy, the AI skills and the human skills to the future
Hmm.
of work. It talks about blended work, which is having AI agents in the organization chart. And then next year, probably it hasn't been fully announced yet, but it's leaning towards physical AI, which is robotics and how humans can interact with that type of artificial intelligence. So moving past agentic AI.
Okay, perfect. So here's my next question. How can teachers, okay, because this is like the big thing right now. So how can teachers and educational institutions balance like that automation and AI efficiency with the need for human interaction, mentorship, and emotional learning? What's your thoughts on that?
I believe AI can actually amplify human existence and human abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So even if an education institute hasn't experimented with AI, maybe they're still a little nervous, or maybe they can't fully afford to implement a full solution. I recommend getting in now rather than waiting. So that's kind of the first step in this. And the second step is I think there's a lot of resistance because AI could have the ability to replace a human being. But think about an educational classroom. Humans like to learn from other humans,
Yes,
right? True? Yes.
true, true.
So at least in higher education, especially as things shift online, AI can take the form of a TA, a teaching assistant. It can help answer questions. You can build it into the product or around a product. That way,
Mm-hmm.
students aren't using it for cheating. They're using it with the course instead of against the course, so to speak. And then you're really creating an ecosystem so that the students can not only learn more quickly, but they can also practice those AI skills regardless of the course, because I think you can apply AI everywhere, or at least almost everywhere. And then lastly, you're kind of getting over that hurdle of the AI resistance because now that as a faculty member, now that my students have that help, instead of answering the same question or similar questions 20, 25 times, I can take on more mentorship opportunities. I can pursue better research or more research.
Mm-hmm.
I can take students with me for that research. There's a lot more interaction with the students. So from an amplification standpoint, a faculty member can focus on what they love to do, what they
Yeah.
specialize in, work with the students to do those things, and the students can still gain knowledge. They still have that expert in the course. And I also believe this is a little bit of a third wave, but eventually it will reduce the cost of education. So it will become more accessible and affordable because you can have more students in a course, they can still learn, the faculty member doesn't have to feel overwhelmed, and that will then help bring down price.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're right. I think this is definitely going to change the classroom. It already is. And so I'm glad that you mentioned that because we need more teachers to embrace it. to not be resistant when it comes to implementing it in the classroom and figuring out a way how you can teach with incorporating some of the strategies in your lesson. And like you said, I think it's going to make a better classroom whenever teachers learn how to use it properly.
Absolutely. And I think it's learning how to use it and when. I think most teachers think that kind of works like Google. Students will just go out and you use it and then get the answers. But if
Yeah,
you change your product offering, maybe you do more video submissions. So instead of just submitting a presentation, you actually have to present it to the
yeah,
faculty member, right? You still have to show what you know there. Even if I used AI, you can't use it live for 10 minutes, right? So you
that's
still
right.
have, right? Like it's not going to be super helpful in that scenario. So we have to change the product.
Yeah, you're right. And I currently have my students. I work with the students who are in it's called like work-based learning, and they're out looking for jobs, or they're working, or they're trying to gain skills in what they want to do in the future. So I was able to use the tool to come up with a project for them to go out and interview people that they want to in careers that they would like to pursue after high school. And so, like you said, that's not something that they can, you know, create with this AI tool, this actual interview. They've got to record themselves and they got to have these, have the conversation with the person. And so it's stretching them a little bit because they have never done that before. But I love it because I love challenging them in ways that sometimes, the normal platforms don't. You know?
Absolutely. And in this is an excellent use case example because not only is it flexible, so this can change depending upon the student or students using this example, but you
Hmm.
also can use it for different industries. Healthcare students could use it, engineering students could use it. It's perfect.
Yeah, love it. So when we think about the ethical considerations, what should we build, especially around data privacy, algorithm biases, and fairness, and who should be accountable?
I think anybody using the tool is accountable. So the
Yeah.
organization's accountable, the individual's accountable, the AI company's accountable. I think accountability should be held across the board just because it's a different type of tool. Usually, in a consumption model, the company that sells it is a little bit liable. Usually, it's on the consumer, but I think in this case, it's a little bit on everyone. And
Yeah.
and on that note, I kind of hinted at this before, but
Hmm.
especially on this question, it's really important to get into the AI game if you haven't. I know there's a lot of resistance to AI,
Yeah.
but think about being anti-AI. So your students are still using it. I can promise you your students are still using it.
Yeah.
They're going out to any AI tool. So now there's no regulation. They can use any tool they want.
Hmm.
They can put in the assignment, they can put in information about their peers. There's really no transparency and very little accountability. And then they'll come back and make a submission. Yes, that's kind of on the individual. They're not really learning at that point, but also on the school or the educational institutions front, you're losing a lot of information there. Where if you had an internal buy-in and you had an internal tool that maybe you partnered with, it's reduced cost. There's transparency, there's tracking. You can track the prompts. If there's some sort of mishap, you can kind of see what went wrong and why. You can see which courses are getting the most queries and what questions are being asked, so you can fix the courses more quickly. If the if a student has some sort of crisis,
Hmm.
maybe it's in the data. There's another data point for the school to fall back on.
Hmm.
There's a lot of benefits of building an ecosystem around the AI. And then that then helps us bring this back to the product, to the actual course that you're selling the students. You can bring this into any domain, the humanities, engineering, STEM, nursing. I'm pretty sure every industry is going to be impacted by AI, and the importance of building around the product. So maybe you're allowing the students to use AI for research. So it just goes finds research articles and they still produce some sort of scholarly research. Or maybe you're using AI to, instead of do a quiz that's multiple choice, they have to interact with an AI bot and submit those prompts and those questions to show what they actually know. Or maybe it's a conversational AI
Hmm.
and you have to have a conversation with it to practice as an interview. There's a lot of great use cases with AI. And by, I guess, being so resistant to it and not even thinking about implementing it at an organizational level, you're missing all of those pieces. And that really, you're kind of deferring risk. You're kind of putting your head in the ground saying it doesn't exist. And I
Yeah.
think it's actually more risky to do that than it is just to take on some of the risk, place in a responsible AI framework. I call it what not to do with AI, make it very clear that we're not putting our names and social security numbers and credit card numbers into this.
Mhm.
Anything you don't want people to know, you don't put in there, but we can use it to learn. It's very good at that. And it can make things very personalized.
Yeah, I love that. And so that, you said something about all the industries being impacted. And so you do feel like with the micro credentialing that pretty much every industry is going to have to get on board with that. And the reason why I ask that is because, even at, a lot of the schools, they have all of these different programs for example, for us, it's culinary arts, we have STEM, we have the engineering and marketing and business and entrepreneurship and all of those things. But we haven't gotten to the level of understanding that micro credentials. And so I guess for educators, this is something that we need to kind of look into because every industry is going to be impacted some kind of way, right?
Absolutely. I think I should say most industries. So if you want to be a medical doctor, I think medical school will probably still look the same. If you want to be a lawyer, a law degree will probably still look the same because they're regulated. But
Yeah.
for the most case, I think computer science, STEM's definitely going to change because of AI.
Hmm.
To your point, business and marketing are changing because of AI. So I guess ask yourself, can AI do any of these components? And if the answer is yes, then it's
Mm,
probably going to change. But we don't have to change just with micro credential. I think education can actually happen in the workforce.
yeah.
So where it's going to be more of an ecosystem approach. So right now, workforce either gets talent from education or they send their talent out to education to gain some skills and come back. I think that's going to happen closer together much more quickly because organizations have to change more quickly. They don't have the 4 years to wait anymore. And it's not just because of AI. There's all the baby boomers that are going to retire, economic pressures, revenues. They're trying to implement AI, but it's not going so well. So they really need to get this skill set up and going. So there's a lot of different pressures there. So they're trying to figure out how to upskill their workforce much more quickly than traditionally, they do it every 4 years. Now I think they're doing it every two.
Hmm.
It's going to happen even faster. So how do you do that? Well, you can do it through mentorship. You can do it through cross collaboration, taking a project. So I'm a data scientist by trade, but maybe I'm paired with a project manager, and that project manager teaches me how to plan a sprint or plan a project using waterfall methodology. Then I can break down the tasks and run some of the meetings. Yes, we'll still have the expert project manager, not a replacement, but it's more of a co-collaboration of skills in that sense. And maybe I can teach them some basic data science skills like data visualization, because that ties into project management all the time, right?
Yeah.
Or how to prioritize risk, or teach them some more about data science so they can take on more data science projects. And you're not only in that case taking on projects to build your own organizational portfolio, so you're building your brand, but you're also able to learn from other experts that do have that training in the work field that can then advocate for you. And so that might not necessarily be a micro credential per se, but maybe your organization does have that collaborative environment, and maybe they have like a digital wallet. So you do something like this, and then you can earn something in your digital wallet to show that you did it. And then over time, you collect these things and you can trade them in. So I think it's going to become faster, shorter. People are going to be learning all the time. It's not going to be one and done, and it's definitely going to be project based.
Yeah. And you had asked a great question. And I kind of want to repeat this because I was like, now that's a question that teachers can use and build a project out of. When you think about the different industries, when you think about anything that you're teaching, you can break that down to students to ask this question: can AI change any part of this industry? And the students do a deep dive research, because at the end of the day, the subject matter is the subject matter, right? And typically we go through the same thing year after year, but there are, things that we look at that have improved in those industries, right? So now looking at it as, what can AI do, and how can AI change this part of this industry, and have those kids research that? I think that's a great project to do.
Flip side of the project, what can I do that AI can't do?
Oh, I like that. Yes. Well, you know what? This is great. Thank you for being on the show. What's next for you, Ben?
I appreciate that, Francesca. So if folks want to reach out to me to learn how to create a learning plan for their organization, or if
Yeah.
they need a subject matter expert, they can go out to LinkedIn and connect with me, or they can find me at bentascherai.com.
And I will definitely have all of that information in our show notes. This was a great conversation. It gave us something to think about. So I really appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Francesca.
Yeah. That's a wrap on today's episode of Everything But the Lesson Plan. I want to thank Ben Tasker for joining us and for helping us see not just where AI is headed, but what it means for us as educators and for our students. The future of work and learning is shifting fast, and the choices we make today will shape whether our classrooms prepare students to simply survive or truly thrive. As always, I am your host, Franchesca Thompson. If this conversation challenged your thinking, share it with a colleague or start a discussion in your school. The future belongs to our students sitting in front of us, and it is our responsibility to equip them for the world where human creativity and empathy matters more than ever. Join me next time as we continue to uncover the lessons that don't always fit inside a textbook, but are essential for teachers everywhere. Until then, keep teaching, keep learning, and keep thriving.